Of course, we know that tax administration, effective tax administration, is critical to the vibrance of the economy. And so there's some optimism in the air as the Senate has now passed the remaining 2 tax reform bills. Of course, even though they are executive bills, the 4 tax reform bills, they still need assent of the president to become law. But let's project about what this means for the Nigerian economy. And joining us this morning to have this conversation is Mr. Sam Agbeluyi. I hope I got your name correctly, sir. Yes, indeed. Mr. Samuel Agbeluyi is the president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. He's right here in our Lagos studio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming on the program, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.
So let's project into what will be, first off, the institutional reforms that we will see as a result of the eventual assent of these tax reform bills when implementation becomes, as the former Federal Inland Revenue Service becomes a Nigeria Revenue Service, and then the digitalization of tax systems that we expect. So what are the changing outlooks of the tax administration that we'll see first off?
Well, thank you very much. The human beings that will implement the various bills soon to become act of the National Assembly reside with the current Federal Inland Revenue Service and the various state internal revenue services, as the case may be. And so we expect a new change, a new power, and a new focus, more concise than it used to be. And to that extent, efficiency will come in. Once we have efficiency, we expect upward movement of revenue, the much needed revenue that Nigeria desires to finance our public expenditure. So to that extent, we expect a more vibrant Federal Inland Revenue Service at the national level. We expect a more vibrant state internal revenue services, so that and the joint tax board establishment B, soon to become an act, we also bring a lot of harmonization, different states working together, because we need this a lot, so that what is operating in Jigawa will not be remarkably different from what we have operating in Odo, that kind of a thing. So I want to believe, I'm optimistic, and the Institute is optimistic that Nigeria is in for a good time, believing that the leaders, the political leaders, more importantly at the state level and local government level, we have the political will to implement. That is the next discussion. That is the main discussion we need to go into. We appreciate the Parliament for the great job they have done. It means that Nigeria is actually a great country. If we could have managed the divergence that came up over these bills in the past few months, and the way it has come to this great end at the National Assembly, it means Nigeria cannot do anything, and we are grateful that this is happening.
Now, will the new sharing formula for the VAT, the prior one being the subject, the bone of contention, that caused the controversy, but will the new sharing formula engender the vibrance of local economies at the subnational level upon the commencement of implementation? Are you optimistic about that?
Very optimistic. And I said this earlier in my appearance here. You see, if you look at the 3 variables that we are talking about, either equality, either population, or derivation, they are meant, whichever way you juggle it, they are meant to engender economic activities, progressive economic activities for that matter. If you look at the 50% equality, it's going to, because, and I said it before, and the Institute is dead serious on this, no state wins when the others are losing. So when we give the opportunity for everybody to develop. That is the essence of the 50%. Okay, let us share equally, notwithstanding whatever is our status now. Once there's development, we need to keep our focus, our eyes on development. Once we have that level of development, then we are good. Then the 30% for derivation, kind of, is a major, it brings competition, and we need that. Competition was the hallmark of the development we had in the 60s between the three regions. So the 30% is still a good percentage that we bring about competition. If you want to develop, and I'm sure that the citizens will always hold their leaders accountable, because in all of this, we can't ignore the role of the citizens. Then, of course, the population, the money, whatever revenue you are talking about, is used for the people. So, all things being equal, the more of the people you have, the more of the headache you have in trying to make sure that you take care of their needs, their social and economic needs. So, all these three variables, as we have them, it could still be tinkered with in future, but it's a good place to start.
I would like us to stay on that one before I get to the other questions, and that has to do with this, because the way the sharing formula, which it was the most controversial, the most political, in fact, some people say it's more political than fiscal in that sense, is that everybody is guaranteed 70%. Yeah. Everybody, depending on your population, let's contextualize that now. Everybody is guaranteed technically 70%. So the 30% is about your ingenuity and all of that. So what has to be done? Because we've seen governors who are not doing well. We've seen governors who are not innovative. Do you think this will really trigger or change somebody who is not, will give any push in that sense, or just being guaranteed 70% may just be just enough for some persons? Because when we say it will engender competition, it's relative.
Well, looking at our background, our historical background up to today, it's neither here nor there. Some people are never motivated. That is a reality of life. But I mentioned the role of the citizens. We need to take our leaders to account. And I think we need to do more in this regard with the implementation of these bills when they become act. Because there's no way you can be a state governor and you are not bringing something to the table. You ask for the vote and you are there and you must do a lot. Let me give you an example. If you go and check, most of the states that are doing very well, they have what we call autonomy. Autonomy means that the executive is hired on his competence, not on political patronage. The executive has the power to recruit whoever, not necessarily from your state, but whoever has the competence you bring on board. And you agree with me, with competent people, the efficiency is guaranteed. And once you have efficiency, higher income will come in. Not all states in the country as we speak are giving that benefit to their state internal revenue service. So when you bring the, with due respect, when you bring the civil service structure to internal revenues, for people to collect money, it's a different ballgame. Tax collection is a big job, and you need the expertise, you need the mindset. So when a state internal revenue chairman does not have the autonomy and is about to take a step, he gets call from government house. It's not going to do well. So,
but in essence, sir, you're saying that for it to be effective, every state maybe model Lagos in the sense that it should be outsourced. I mean, revenue collection in that.
Yes, I didn't just want to mention Lagos, but the fact is obvious, and we all know that. In Lagos, where I have also practiced over the years, you don't see Lagos Internal Revenue Service closing an office for infraction and the governor calling the chairman to go and open. No, you sort it out at that level. So we want that to happen in other states. And it's not just Lagos State. We have about 7 states doing very well in this regard, but 7 out of 36 is a far cry. So we need to do more.
What about the argument, at the time of the proposition of the tax reform bills in the first place, that, the customs shouldn't be in the forefront of collection of taxes?
Yeah, well, a country will choose whichever model it wants. I'm currently the president of West African Union of Tax Institute, and I know there's hardly any country I've been in West Africa, and I've been to a lot, where you don't have the custom residing within the revenue authority. That is the model. In UK, where we got our independence from, that is also the practice. But again, the issue of the custom has become political, and a lot of powers behind that, because it's a major revenue. But for efficiency, I tell you, custom trade facilitation, that is supposed to be their core mandate. But we are even grateful that we are moving massively from where it used to be. But if you look at, if you want to get it, do the right thing. If you want to get the result, do the right thing. And it's a Nigerian thing. Whether you have money in your left pocket, if you are objective, whether you have money in your left pocket or your right pocket, what does it matter? The trouser belongs to you. But the situation of empire creation, it's not a today's affair. It has always been there. People want to create empire. People want to maintain their domain.
You know, sir, this is going to be taking money from the boys in that sense. So let's call it what it is. We're trying to be as efficient as possible. So let's put it on record. Now that we will be having Nigeria Revenue Service, what will the custom be doing exclusive? Because they used to collect all this. In fact, they exceeded their target by a few trillions or a few billions at that time, and all of us applauded them for that. So how will it function operationally? Walk us through how this will function, because now we have a revenue service that will just be the exclusive preserve of collecting revenue. From my understanding, is their job to collect revenue. So what happens to customs? How will customs operate in relation to revenue collection? So help Nigerians understand that dichotomy.
Okay, the devil is in the details, and I will be a little bit reluctant to talk to the bill at the National Assembly because we don't have the details. A lot of amendment has gone into that bill. So, but let me speak of what I know of other jurisdictions. What we have in other jurisdictions, Ghana, Gambia, Senegal, I want to use close country that I am aware of, is to have the number 2 person, structure-wise, who is a custom officer, trained by the custom, residing with the revenue agency, the revenue authority.
At the ports?
Even at the office, of course, they will have their people. It's a structure stuff. They will have their people at the port. But even, let's use the example of FRS. They will be with the FRS. And the essence of that is for all trade, all commercial activities, they are to evaluate and collect. And let me say this, the job of the revenue authority, be you at the state level or at the federal, is assessment, collection, and accounting. So this aspect, the assessment, collection, and accounting of the customs service can be brought into the revenue service, whereby, you see, because it's not just importation. When a company is importing, it's just a segment of its business. The other aspect that Nigerian Revenue Service soon to be will be handling. So if you give that service, that job, that responsibility to somebody who is going to see through the remaining aspects of the flow, I think it makes sense. And to that extent, I believe that's the reason why those countries that have merged the two, particularly the revenue aspect of custom, and I mentioned the word trade facilitation. That is essentially what the customs are supposed to do, and the border aspect of their job.
So whatever the flow is, if it is still residing within the jurisdiction of the customs service, if it is digitalized, at least accountability can be guaranteed. Am I correct?
It will be.
But the devil will still be in the detail.
It will be, and I tell you, it is important that we streamline our activities in order to get the benefit for it. But you see, this discussion has been on for over 20 years. So,
but I thought this is what the bill or acting in the waiting is supposed to correct. Whether anybody, whoever's ox is God, if we have to be efficient in that sense. Because I know they raised some concern at the public hearing. The custom boss or somebody sent and raised this inconsistency between the framework or some of the clauses in the bill as against the clauses in the Customs Act in that sense. That's why I'm dwelling on this question, because if we miss clarity as to one of our biggest revenue point or sources in terms of the points we get revenue from, then all of this is going to be hogwash.
Well, I repeat it again. It is better for the revenue service to collect everything that has to do with revenue. It makes sense. It calls for efficiency, and the focus is always good. And you see, when there's a trend, that's what we call trend analysis. When you have the whole picture, that is the importation and the export, as the case may be, at the port level, and you are able to merge whatever activities you have there with the tax compliance nature, culture of a company, you can always project into the future and say, okay, looking at this, because figure will always speak to a tax professional. So when you are able to take everything, the holistic view of everything, it's good for the country. The current custom may be doing very well. We applaud them for meeting their target and even surpassing. But that is possibly because of the leadership of custom today. You may not have that kind of a person tomorrow. That is why it is good for entity, a country, a state, or wherever, to focus on system, not individual. Individual brilliance may fade away, but once we have a good system, then the country will benefit. So that is our position.
And we hope that indeed that is what the exercise has been designed to achieve. Let's not lose sight of one of the key things that the president said at the commencement of these tax reforms and the inauguration of that committee. He said the administration will not tax poverty, but will tax wealth. But if you look at some of the elements in the bill, the concern about SMEs, the personal income tax for those who will be earning above ₦1 million, set particularly against the backdrop of the reforms of this administration, which have impacted significantly, negatively on Nigerians. Wouldn't the gains of the tax reform bills have been defeated when implementation commences?
On the contrary, and I say that with all sense of responsibility, on the contrary. If anything, these bills have given a lot of leverage for SME to thrive. As we speak, the benchmark for exemption from paying either company income tax, VAT, and the like is at 25 million. The bill, as it left the presidency for the National Assembly, increased from 25 million to 50 million. And in the wisdom of the House of Rep, and I pray the Senate will concur, they have increased that to 100 million, meaning that whatever business you are doing, and you are operating within the threshold of 100 million and below, you have no business in doing this. What does it? What is the sense in that? It means your capital, your working capital, is retained for expansion. That is just.
So let's put it in context, sir. Because you're the expert here. So it moved from 25, I think, to 50, and then to 100 for something. Yes. What does this mean? Is it turnover or bottom line, which is profit?
Turnover.
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 So that we're clear. So yes. That because people.
It's turnover.
Meaning all the monies that come through your accounts.
Yes.
If it doesn't exceed 100 million, then you're free from VAT.
All the money that comes to your account in terms of your activities.
Yes.
That is your business, because you could get loan into your account. You could get some other transfer. But the meaning again is that the company will have more money. The government will lose revenue. That is just what it means. But the wisdom behind that kind of a thing, it is not that the government wants to lose revenue. It's to allow this company to grow.
But, sir, these companies still have to operate amid these economic headwinds. They're buying diesel, at over 1,000 naira, per liter.
And if my headache,
amid all of
if my headache before now, if I have 5 types of headaches and somebody has reduced it to 1 or 2, it means I'm getting better.
Okay.
I like the optimism.
We didn't have time to talk about the oil sector in all of this, because that's In fact, we will have to bring you back to discuss oil sector vis-a-vis this revenue, because if we fail, you know what that means.
I believe we know.
But Mr. Agbelu has said, if your money is in the left pocket and in the right pocket, as long as it is your money. I like that analogy. Thank you so much. So we're talking with Mr. Samuel Agbelu. He's the president, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, and he has joined us right here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So it's time now to transit to the softer side of things. Join us for some meditation after the sound out.